Hey everyone, so I am here with my very first Felicity Jane team project, and I'll be creating a 2-page spread in my pink note to self binder. So April is my birthday month, and I decided to jot down a list of 30 things that I've learned in the past 30 years. And so that is what I have here. I've just printed it out on some white cardstock and I trimmed it to size so that it'll fit on some pattern paper that I am going to use on one side of my spread, and then the other side is just the plain grid paper. And so the paper that I chose for that page is this really cute, whimsical, fun rainbow pattern paper from the Grace kit. I will be using the Felicity Jane Grace kit, which is the April kit for this month for this project. And so yeah, my idea was just to mat that list onto that paper and embellish it, basically just keep it really simple. But for the right hand side, the right page, I wanted to use this photo of myself, which I fussy cut out of the bigger photo. I just fussy cut myself out of the bigger photo so that it kind of looks like, you know how when you make those collages from like when you cut images out of magazines like models and stuff, like that's what I was going for. But I wanted to give myself some wings. And so I used the Megan cut file. This was a cut file that was released along with the Megan kit, Felicity Jane kit. And you can find this cut file in the Felicity Jane shop. And so I just took the butterfly from it and enlarged it and cut it out of some white cardstock for the big butterfly. And then I shrunk the butterfly down into different sizes to create butterflies to embellish the page. And so since this is a cut file, I'm going to back all of these butterflies with paper. And I was playing around with using this branding paper for the big butterfly, but I ended up backing that big butterfly with more of this rainbow paper just to balance out the patterns. And all the other little butterflies I end up backing with this branding paper because the branding page has all of the patterns from the kit, and I liked the idea of having multiple patterns behind the butterflies, and so I figured might as well use the branding paper for the smaller butterflies to embellish and have those different patterns popping through on this spread. And so you'll see me here still trying to figure out which pattern will work well with that bigger butterfly, and then this is when I realized that the smaller butterflies look really cute with having the multiple patterns to them. And so I lined them up so that the what is that? I guess the spine of the butterfly is in the middle, like where two different patterns meet, so that each wing has a different pattern. And so I'm just taking the negative space, the paper that's left over when you do the cut, and I'm just tracing the outline of the butterfly onto this paper, and you'll see that I cut out all of those butterflies, and that's what I'm using to back the cut files. And I think my camera cuts out here, but you can see here how I just kind of cut out the backing from that piece that I traced, and all I do is I take the die cut, the white die cut, and I just use a glue pen and just on the spine just put a little bit of glue. And I did it that way. I glued all of the backings to the cut files that way so that when it dries I can lift up the wings and it just creates more of a dimension onto my page. And so here I'm just putting down my typed journaling, my list here. And this list is 30 things that I know to be true. And so it's a list of 30 things that I've learned in 30 years that for me, they're truths. So like I think the first one is mother knows best. I think that's the first thing that I've ever learned that I know that is true. Moms always know. Like they know what's best. They always have the answers. And so it's little truths like that from just lessons, life lessons that I've learned from people that I've met, and there's 30 of them. And so I just double-sided tape that onto the page there, and here you'll see that I am tracing around the bigger butterfly onto that rainbow paper, and then I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna fussy cut that trace out, and then this one though, I don't just glue in the center. I actually put glue with my glue pen along every bit of that cut file, because this is going to be behind me, it's not going to be raised up, and so I wanted to make sure that that cut file is glued to the backing paper. And so you'll see here that I just put glue on everything, like on all the bits. And this, I don't even know, this, I got this glue pen at Michael's. I actually need to go get, I need to buy another one. I believe it's a Zig, a Kuretake Zig glue pen. It's just really easy to use when you have these intricate die cuts to glue things down. So that's that. I have a little piece that I need to cut off, but I'm going to wait until that dries so nothing moves. And so yeah, so that's my page. So on the page with my photo, I actually did kind of set up a title there, and it's this is what 30 years looks like. This is what looks like, that is from the stamp set, and you'll see that I struggled to stamp that onto the page. What I did was I just stamped it on some cardstock first and then positioned it on my page just to see where the title looks best. And I did this so that if I want to move it or rearrange it, I could before I actually stamped on my page. And so that's what I did here. And then I use the mint green alpha stickers from the Grace kit to write out 30 years. And again, I will reposition that until I find like the best spacing before I do any sort of stamping. And so that's what I did there. And you'll see here that I'm making another butterfly embellishment, because I'm laying them out on my spread now. I'm not gluing anything down because I'm just moving things about all the time. And so I think eventually I figure out which butterfly goes where, and once I do that, I think I go and do some stitching. But right now I'm still figuring out my butterflies. And so you see here what I mean by tracing it so that the spine sits at the line where the two patterns meet. That way there are two patterns for each butterfly. I just love the look of that. So I end up having 3 of the butterflies on the left page and 2 of them, minus the really big one, on the right. And you can see here I'm kind of fluffing up the wings of these butterflies. And that's what I mean by when I glue them in the center. That way I can do that and it creates some sort of dimension. So this backing butterfly, what I end up doing is I end up cutting it in half because I really only want to give myself wings. So I end up cutting it in half and then cutting off the antennas and just keeping the wing part. And I am figuring out how to best place the wings on my back so that they look symmetrical, or they look even in proportion to how I'm standing in the photograph. And so I kind of play around with that placement quite a bit. And all I'm doing is I just kind of taped it down with some double-sided tape just to keep it in place before I really glue everything down. And so I kind of like my little layout there, so I'm going to go and sew a little border around my journaling. So I just did it with some white thread on my sewing machine just to give it a bit more texture. And now I'm going to go ahead and glue down these butterflies. And I basically just glue them down in the center, that way I can lift up all like the 2 layers of the wings up and just make it seem like they're fluttering onto the page. And so I do that for all 3 of the butterflies, and then I move over to work on my photo, like little photo cluster here. I have these 2 labels from the die cuts ephemera pack from the Grace kit, and I'm going to layer them on top of the photo like that with some of this little Just Darling chipboard piece from the little chipboard bits. And I'm taking out all of the hearts because I think I'm going to embellish with all the hearts onto my page there. And so I use double-sided tape to layer the 2 labels, and then I take my tiny attacher to add some staples, and then I just kind of adhere that chipboard piece right on top, and then that whole thing goes right on top of my photo there. And again, I don't glue anything down on that page because I'm still working on it. I'm gluing down these chipboard hearts, these little hearts here, just to embellish the page. There are 3 of them in the chipboard bits pack, and so I think I used all 3 of them. I used 2 of them on the left-hand page, which right now is completely done, and then that 1 on the right there. Okay, so before I glue anything down onto this right-hand page, I want to get my stamping. I want to get the stamping done, and I did this on purpose because I knew for a fact that I was going to mess up on the stamping. And so you see here that I just kind of marked out where I had the papers, the 2 papers where I had initially stamped the stamp, just so that I know the placing of it, of like where the stamp is supposed to go and everything. And I just took out my StazOn and I stamped the first one, and the first one didn't stamp very clearly. And so I try to go over it to see if I can go over it and get it to stamp well, and it didn't stamp quite right. And so I had to get a brand new page, and I'm so glad that I didn't glue anything down yet before I did this, because I had to go and start over and get a brand new page from my planner and like re-stamp everything. And so what I ended up doing the second time, I learned I'm not a very good stamper. I don't stamp very often. I marked off where the stamps need to be from the other page. I just did the same markings. And then I took a scrap piece of paper and I made sure that it covered up the rest of the page so that I can stamp out the entire stamp. So I was just inking one part of the stamp, but I decided to ink the whole thing and then stamp the whole thing, and the actual stamp came out so much better. And so I did that for the second one too, and I managed to get some pretty good stamping done here. But I'm so glad I didn't glue anything down, because I just knew I was gonna mess up the first time. And so my stamps, they look really good, and so I just kind of build up my layout again on this page. I go ahead and, glue everything down and put my alphas back into place, and then I struggle here with lining them up correctly so that they don't look, my title is off-center anyway because I have that butterfly that's accenting it on the side, but like I always struggle with placing my alphas so that they look even and look at least a little bit proportional to where everything is on the page. And so I kind of fussed around with that for a while here. And you see that I pulled out the butterfly just to see the placement, because I need room for that butterfly to sit. So yeah, there goes my title. And I'm placing everything back just to see how it all looks, and to me it looks really good. And so I go ahead and glue everything down. I reinforce the wings on my back by adding some more double-sided tape, because I don't want those guys to move. And peeling off the back, adding some more tape, and my little winged person goes down onto the page there. And then I put my little label cluster down there. And then I go ahead and glue down my butterflies. So I go ahead and put down that little heart, but I'm looking at like my ephemera pieces and stuff like that, and I pull out the enamel, I don't know, I pulled out the puffy hearts from the Felicity Jane Brooke kit, and then I have the Bailey, they're not enamel, they're epoxy hearts, and just seeing which hearts look better with, like what colors look better with the colors of the Grace kit, and I end up going with the Brooke puffy hearts, and I take out 2 of them just to fill that space there, and I put it in a way so it looks like the butterfly trail as it's flying up. And yeah, that's basically my spread here. I'm just punching the holes out onto this page here because I didn't punch it to begin with. My grid paper already had the holes in place, and yeah, I put it in my note to self binder, which is really empty at the moment. But yeah, that is my spread here. I really hope you enjoyed this process. Be sure to check out all of the Grace goodies at felicityjane.com. Link is always in the description. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!